this is the iPhone 12 mini, and from a pro photography point of view, it's not as good as this, or this, or this. Now that's not me hating on phones and saying that phone cameras are bad. They're not. For many people, they're exactly what you need. But physics is the thing, and bigger sensors and better glass will always outperform a phone camera. Now I know for many people it doesn't matter, because they just want the photo, they just want the instant snap, and phones are capable of shooting decent images in a wide variety of subjects, and then you can just share them to the socials. And that's fine, because realistically, who needs a Sony A1 for Instagram? Really? Now the reason portrait mode even exists is because with such a tiny sensor and lens, you can't easily recreate or get natural bokeh, natural blurry backgrounds. With a big sensor and a decent lens, decent fast lens, that's easy. So they have to resort to computational wizardry in order to make this a thing, and it comes with varying degrees of success. Some phones manage it and some, well, just don't. Now an easy way to get around this, or to make it look a little bit better, is to simply dial the effect back a bit. Phones have a tendency to overdo it by default, so I found that by just taking it back a little bit, it makes things look a little bit better. So on the iPhone 12 mini, all you do is you go and find the picture that you're going to edit. This is just a picture of my son. As you can see, there is a strong family resemblance. Press the edit button up here, and then on the top left of the screen you can see it says the F number that the camera chose when you took the photograph. All you need to do then is just dial that back to a point where you're happy with it not looking like mush. Now I find phones pretty decent for street photography. A couple of reasons really. One being that tiny sensor. It gives you a greater depth of field, so more in focus, and bokeh, blurry backgrounds, isn't something that's really necessary in street unless you're doing it from a street portrait angle. Secondly, with a camera in your hand, people notice you. With the phone in your hand, you just look like everybody else. Now, as with all things, there are positives and negatives to using a smartphone for photography. And for me, many of the negatives just come from the fact that for over a decade I've been using real cameras and real lenses, and they simply aren't the same thing. Now, they each have their place, but to me, a phone fits more in the space of a Polaroid for the digital era. You know, you press the button, the camera does most of the work, you don't have really a lot of control versus an actual camera, and it spits out, in this case, a fairly decent looking JPEG. Now there's a Chase Jarvis quote that people love to parrot. It's the best camera is the one that's with you. He even wrote a book of the same name. And yeah, it's alright, it's kind of bullshit though. See, people love to use that quote in order to elevate the capabilities of whatever camera it is they have, be it a smartphone or whatever. And that's not what he meant by that. That quote basically means that if you're in a situation where you have to get the shot, there's a situation that's never going to repeat itself, and you're there, you want the shot, you get that shot. If it's a phone, if it's a 35mm disposable film camera, if it's a high-end mirrorless, whatever, getting the shot is the important thing. That's what he meant by that quote. What he didn't mean is your phone is better than every programmer that exists, because it's not. I mean, let's be realistic. If phones were comparable to a modern camera and lens setup, do you think photographers would go out and spend 16 grand on a sports and wildlife lens if super res zoom or whatever it's called on the Pixel 7 would do the job just fine. Or drop £2,000 on an 85 1.4 because you know what? Nah, we're not going to do that because portrait mode. No, they wouldn't. And going back to Chase Jarvis, the guy who did that quote, wrote the book with the same name, he used to run with two Nikon D5s and a lens setup that would make many people's bank balances cry for years. It's just not the same thing. If the phone was good enough, he wouldn't be spending all of that money on pro camera gear now, would he? The main thing that a lot of people don't get is that phones and cameras, they're computers with a camera module. It's not the same thing. Cameras are designed to do one job really well. Phones are designed, as all computers are, to do many tasks good enough. So what it boils down to is you, the individual, and what you are happy with in terms of image quality and what your use is more than anything. For me, a phone can't even get close to any of my cameras. Even the older DSLRs, APS-C, it just cannot get close. And so I don't use my phone that much. I use it for the odd message or maybe to take a snap of an area that I'm going to come back to with my camera, but that's about it. And believe it or not, I'm old enough to remember a world clearly before the likes of smartphones and even the internet. Yeah. So I can see these things for the incredible technology that they are. Many of the images in this video have been shot with this phone, the iPhone 12 mini, and other phones as I've indicated on the images themselves. All of the time lapses shot with this. It's really good tech. And if you're on a night out with your mates or on a shopping trip or whatever, the phone makes perfect sense. It's always in your pocket and you don't want to be carrying a big lump of a camera to the pub. So I'm not hating on phones. They're not bad cameras, they're not bad at all, but they're not even in the same game, let alone ballpark, as a professional camera setup. And it gets so boring to see people posting crap like, oh, who needs a pro camera, with their oversaturated, oversharpened HDR bullshit picture of a neon mask and an underpass. I'm happy you're happy, but don't talk shite. So to end this one, I will simply say this. If you're into photography, you want to progress with it, you want to learn, buy yourself a camera, get a few lenses, and learn the game. If you're happy with just taking snaps, instantly being able to post them to social media with minor tweaks in some app, don't bother. The phone is good enough for what you need. So thanks very much to all of you who have watched the channel, subscribed, commented, and all that good stuff in 2022. I really do appreciate you all. If you're celebrating Christmas, I hope you have a good one. If you're not celebrating, I hope you enjoy the rest of 2022. And I will see you on the 4th of January, 2023. See you in the next one.